You're watching the Intel Network and Edge V Summit series with our focus today on CloudNative NFV. What is the status of network functions virtualization, and how will cloud-native technologies continue to drive network transformation? Well, joining me now to provide insights on building the cloud-native network of the future are Jeni Panhorst, VP Data Platforms Group and GM Network and Edge Platforms Division at Intel, Brian Bearden, AVP Network Cloud Design and Delivery Management at AT&T, Eric Vallone, who's Director of Product Management Service Provider Solutions at Dell, and Rajesh Gadiyar, who's VP Data Platforms Group and CTO Network Platforms Group at Intel. Hello everybody, thanks so much for joining us today for this discussion.
Hi guys, nice to be here.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yep. Jeni, let's set the scene. What are the key value propositions that a cloud-native network infrastructure will deliver?
Yeah, there's a lot of promise that comes with a cloud-native approach, Guy. I think it really boils down to a couple key areas of focus with respect to business value. I think the first is really around rapid innovation, the ability to deploy services that have increased value to end users and deploy them more quickly and make them available. So that could result in increased ARPU back to the telecom operators or new revenue streams entirely, because it's brand new services that have been able to be deployed in a much more cost-effective fashion. The second is really around operational agility. This idea that the telecom infrastructure has an opportunity to move at or near cloud pace and the level of innovation that comes with it. So of course the vision would be something that would have taken a truck roll historically, now is as simple as deploying a containerized application. And very related to that is improvements that we could drive in resource efficiency as well as scalability of the infrastructure. So there's an opportunity to optimize platform development, deployment, operation, be able to scale resources with changing demand in the network, in the overall infrastructure, and drive a great deal of improvement in overall automation. And all of these in combination have an opportunity to improve total cost of ownership for the operators as well as for the customers that they service. And that really kind of leads to my final point, which is that all of these collectively result in improved experience for the end users, whether it's consumers or whether it's enterprises that are serviced by the telecom operators, enhanced services beyond what they're able to get access to today, but also differentiated services. Because when we think about the advent of 5G and edge computing, it really is about this opportunity to innovate a wide variety, a wide diversity of new services. And so being able to deliver differentiation in terms of what the infrastructure can provide to those different services is really crucial and a key tenet of what we believe cloud native will bring.
Brian, AT&T has long experience with network transformation. Based on your experience, where does the industry need to go now? And is cloud native the way forward?
Oh, certainly cloud native is the direction we should be headed in. Jeni makes a compelling argument. She's spot on. I'll tell you, 6 years ago when we started our SDN NFV effort, our intent from a network cloud infrastructure perspective was that our network functions would be cloud native, because even back then it certainly was a possibility to create a cloud native service using the technology available most widely was virtual machines. Unfortunately, I think what occurred in a lot of instances is that these network functions which were running on closed, proprietary, purpose-built hardware, the firmware was simply ported into software running on virtual machines. There was really no redesign to make them truly cloud native. Fortunately, over the last several years, container technology has evolved and is starting to mature, and its capabilities make it much easier to create cloud native services. There are still some gaps to get container-based services to really support, telco grade, full scale network functions, which need low latency, high bit processing capabilities. We're starting to see some of those closed, so that's a really good sign. So our expectation, and we're starting to see our network function vendors kind of line up around bringing true cloud native network functions to AT&T and other telcos.
Well, Eric, let's bring you into the conversation now. Can you tell us a little bit more about the partnership between Dell and AT&T and what you're working on together?
Sure, absolutely. But first, let me thank you for inviting me to this discussion today. I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you and the rest of this panel. So thank you. Hey, AT&T is really a great partner of ours. We've been working together with them for years. We've worked to build out their data centers, their core network, their cloud services, and now working with them as they move to the edge. And that's critical to this conversation. And so as the concepts of open infrastructure are really moving from the core to the edge, we both saw that the complexities of deployment going up exponentially with, the sheer volume of the deployments, but also the decentralized nature of the edge locations. Really not just everything sitting in a single or a small number of data centers, but thousands, tens of thousands, potentially hundreds of thousands of edge locations. And that has the opportunity to just kill any business case for deploying at the edge. So with that, we decided to partner with AT&T and join as members of the Airship community, whose aim is really to deliver an automation framework to ease the deployment timeframes and, of course, the costs associated with that. Quicker time to revenue, of course, is one of the benefits. So on top of that, we've also created an innovation lab where we're working together with AT&T along with our partners to deliver joint solutions for the industry. In the end, reduced time to deploy, means quicker time to revenue and greater ROI. So to me, it sounds like a win-win.
Great. And Rajesh, how is Intel working with both AT&T and Dell to deliver on the benefits of NFV and cloud native?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm very proud of our strong collaboration with AT&T and Dell in our network transformation journey. So from the very early days of HC NFV standards efforts through AT&T's Domain 2.0, leading to the deployment of AT&T Integrated Cloud and then the Network Cloud, which hosts their 5G mobile core, we have had a very strong collaboration and partnership with AT&T. Now, of course, a key tenet is that this infrastructure is based on standard server infrastructure, such as Dell servers. So with Dell, we have built a strong portfolio of products that are balanced network servers, tailored for radio access networks, edge, and wireless core. We've actually had a very strong collaboration with AT&T and Dell in open source communities, such as the ORAN Alliance, DPDK, the Data Plane Development Kit, ONAP, and Akrino communities, where we have actually come together and driven a common vision for network transformation with an open and standards-based architecture through industry collaboration. Now, as we look forward to this cloud-native transformation, some of the key areas where we are collaborating, they include Airship, which is an open infrastructure project. I think Brian made a mention of this earlier. This is something that we jointly launched last year. Airship uses containerized software to automate what used to be the mostly manual process of building, managing, and upgrading the infrastructure. We are also working together in the ORAN Alliance for an open RAN architecture, where we have brought all our experience and knowledge from the work we have done with our FlexRAN platform for a software programmable RAN infrastructure. Now, you might probably know we recently acquired a commercial software stack for on-prem enterprise edge. This is a company called Smart Edge. And this is where we are collaborating very closely with Dell to really provide that easy button for the developers to build and deploy new edge services. And we expect to evolve that in close collaboration with Dell in the coming months. So that's a quick sort of like summary of how we are working closely with Dell and AT&T.
So let me ask you all now, if I can, about the relationship between network transformation and total cost of ownership savings. Brian, let's start with you. How does the work you're doing on NFV and cloud native translate into TCO savings?
Well, let me first say it's not always about TCO savings. Jeni made some compelling statements about being more agile, the ability to deliver services faster. And that's really one of the core tenets behind why we're going down this NFV path. But from a pure TCO perspective, obviously, anything we can do at a lower cost will make our service costs more competitive to our customers. And I think from a CapEx perspective, it's been very rewarding. I think as we've moved off these specific purpose hardware devices onto general compute, we've benefited from the cross-industry economies of scale, and we've seen significant capital savings. I think where we've lagged a bit, and Rajesh and Eric made mention of this as well, that from an operations expense perspective, as we've disaggregated the network into smaller pieces, and as Eric said, as we push them out further into the network, the operational challenges haven't been met with the automation needed to really make that a savings opportunity. And I think that's what makes me excited about the partnership we have with technology leaders like Dell and Intel is, Kubernetes and the container-based architecture shows so much promise. And we've had wonderful experience with it over the last 3 years as we've moved to take our OpenStack services, containerize them, and build the Airship lifecycle management that makes it so easy to deploy that infrastructure at so many locations very quickly at a low cost. I think what the next step is, our network functions will start to become cloud native as they move to that technology. And we'll have a lot less of operations having to care and feed for those services, and they'll have resiliency and built-in auto recovery that we get with cloud native types of design. So I think the savings are coming in the operations space in the next year or so. You're going to start seeing that.
Thanks, Brian. And Derek, how are you seeing the development of NFV and cloud native translating into TCO savings for your customers?
Yeah, sure. And really to follow up what Brian had said, I know that cost is right there in the middle of the name, but I look at TCO as more than cost savings, right? There are two things that make up TCO, the top line and the bottom line. And many believe or try to say that NFV is all about the bottom line savings. But again, to follow up on what Brian said, I'd like to emphasize that most important is the benefits are agility and flexibility. And specifically, the ability to deliver new and innovative services faster than ever before. But you don't want to be locked into closed architectures that keep you from being able to do that. That's what we get there from virtualization. So when we do it right, there are savings aspects as well. One of the places where we heavily focus on is removing the complexities of deployment, right? Through the use of tools that we provide, such as our iDRAC feature set, and how we can automate the deployments, as we were talking about before, the work we're doing with Airship to further reduce those costs. So while there's some truth in the old adage that every telco is a snowflake, I also think that there's some really underlying similarities across them. And so one of the things that we look to do is to capitalize on those similarities and to define full stack architectures that are really just fully tested blueprints that allow a telco to really get quickly started with new deployments, reducing their own engineering time. And then finally, it's not only about the product and the solution, but one of the things that Dell likes to bring to the table is, well, how can we leverage the economies of scale to further improve the TCO? And there are significant benefits that can be achieved through those economies of scale. Also, one of the benefits we have is our global supply chain has the ability to ship solutions that are really factory-enabled for deployment. Again, further reducing that time and that cost. So in the end, all this results in lower OpEx and quicker time to revenue. So the core components, those are the core components that make up a TCO winner.
Thanks, Eric. Jeni, moving on to Intel, how does the work that you're doing on NFV and cloud native lead to TCO benefits?
Yeah, to complement what Brian and Eric said, Guy, I'd like to focus a bit on the hardware system level innovation. As we have deployed, partnered with our customers to develop and deploy virtualized infrastructure, and now increasingly cloud native infrastructure, it was essential that we look at the use of server-based technology in order to form the foundation for the move from what had been historically purpose-built systems to, again, more server-based technology that leverages cloud technologies and architectures and business models. And this required a couple different steps. This was not something that happened automatically. Certainly we took advantage of server-based innovation, but then what we did was we drove innovations and optimizations in both the compute components as well as a number of other capabilities in the system in order to ensure that it not only services the compute needs of the network and the infrastructure, but also the networking needs. So that optimization step has been very crucial. And we look at our partnership with Dell and others across the ecosystem to be able to ensure that server ecosystem is tooled with best-in-class networking capabilities. So the ability to drive high I/O performance by balancing the I/O architecture within a server, drive specialized acceleration for communications protocols and our connectivity components. Those are just a couple of many examples of where we've driven innovation and then partnered with system developers in order to ensure that these servers are tooled to drive networking performance. But the other reality is the fact that historically, and even still today, there's a great amount of heterogeneity and diversity in the systems that are deployed across the infrastructure. There's a wide variety in location requirements, in design points, and in various system and environmental requirements, and workload requirements as well. And what that meant, again, historically, was a lot of purpose-built solutions. But to be able to increase the pace of the development and deployment of virtualized and cloud-based infrastructure, it's essential that we drive convergence wherever possible onto a common set of building blocks that have those high-performance capabilities that I spoke about before, but to attempt to bring together what historically might have been different implementations onto a common server platform and leveraging a common approach wherever possible. And so what that has a result of achieving is TCO benefits, not only from a CapEx standpoint, because you're able to focus on a smaller number of system SKUs and deploying them for a wide variety of applications, but it also creates an opportunity for improvements in optimizing your OpEx because you have a smaller number of configurations that simplifies development, deployment, operation. When a problem does occur, the debug and the root cause can be focused on that, a narrower, set of issues that need to get investigated and addressed. And so focusing on those common building blocks definitely has benefits for TCO from both a CapEx as well as an OpEx standpoint.
Thank you, Jeni. And Rajesh, what are some of the key initiatives that Intel is driving to support cloud-native transformation?
So Brian and Eric both talked about a scalable infrastructure on which you can actually innovate quickly and bring new services to the market. This is exactly the vision that we've been driving from an Intel perspective. This vision of a programmable, scalable, and intelligent network infrastructure. And our work here is really in three key areas. First, as you would imagine, a scalable platform. So this is where we are actually working with Dell in particular, driving this notion of balanced network platform that is tailored for radio access network, edge, and core. And here we've been actually driving key innovations in the platform for better network processing with an emphasis on cloud-native data plane. So as you're aware, actually, we've done a lot of work with DPDK, a data plane development kit, which has become almost like a standard for high-performance packet processing on standard server platforms. Now, as you look into the cloud-native era, we want to actually evolve that data plane to a more cloud-native data plane with further abstraction, so you can actually scale and move applications and workloads around in a cloud-like fashion. We've also extended our instruction set architecture for key networking workloads. We've actually also integrated accelerators so that deliver better performance and performance per watt. And of course, the story is not complete without actually the focus on software. So we want to actually continue innovating in the software and providing the easy button. Second, a key area of focus is orchestration. And as you guys know, and we've talked about here on this call, Orchestration for cloud native utilizes Kubernetes. I think that's where the industry mindshare is right now. And this is an important tool for orchestration and automation, especially in a multi-cluster and a multi-cloud deployment model. And the focus here really is, for us, is to drive what we call as the enhanced platform awareness in Kubernetes. And this is where we are actually working with the Kubernetes community to drive the knowledge of platform capabilities. So when you actually deploy workloads, you do that with a full knowledge of underlying platform capabilities. So you can easily bring in the notion of quality of service-based scheduling for key workloads at the network edge. And last but not the least, it's the most important. It's really the focus on application development and the ecosystem, where we are working with the technologies such as openness. Openness is our open network edge software, SDK, which is a true cloud-native infrastructure and provides a number of microservices that make it easy for developers, particularly for network services and new edge services. So you can actually utilize this microservices and this openness platform to really create, deploy, and manage an end-to-end service with agility. And we've actually recently also acquired a company called Smart Edge, which actually provides a commercial hardened software platform for deploying edge solutions at an on-prem enterprise location. And this is something that we're going to evolve as well. So really sort of like, all the key elements that are required for providing that easy button for the developers for the application development.
Thanks very much. Well, let's move on a bit, shall we? Eric, 5G is a major beneficiary and a driver of this network transformation work. How are you helping network service providers monetize their investment in 5G technology?
Sure. Well, it's pretty simple and short and sweet. We focus on the business outcomes. As we work with our telecom service providers as partners as opposed to simply customers, our goal is to really understand their intents. What are they trying to achieve? What are the business models that they want to deliver? What are their own goals? And what are their obstacles to success? From there, we look to leverage Dell products and the full stack architectures that we create as a starting point. And then we work with the industry-leading third-party ISVs, software vendors, to deliver these scalable solutions that are matched to the specific business outcomes that AT&T is trying to achieve. And finally, as we move to cloud-native architectures, we have the ability to deliver these new services much more easily and effectively. And as Rajesh said, let's look for that easy button.
And does Dell have any products specifically focused on the edge as part of its 5G strategy?
You make me smile because I wonder which edge are you referring to? Because seriously, there are so many edges that are out there. It's become this overused term. But hey, I love the edge. So there's this multitude of edges, from the telco edge to the customer edge, and the product requirements actually vary quite significantly by use case. And each of those use cases are really critical to the journey to 5G. And that's where we've been working with, again, our partners like Intel and AT&T. So let's start with the customer edge. What are we doing at the enterprises? We've delivered our VEP, Virtual Edge Platform portfolio, which provides a universal CPE that's really easing the complexity of deploying managed services to the enterprise. And that's just one example of what you can achieve with that universal CPE platform. We recently launched our PowerEdge XE2420, which is an edge compute platform that was specifically designed to support the telco's complex workloads like virtualized RAN for 5G networks, or multi-access edge computing and CDN. We also offer our XR2, which is an extremely ruggedized edge compute platform. And then we also recently launched our Micro 415 MDC, Modular Data Center. It's really a streamlined, very hardened weather-hardened enclosure that's designed for extreme temperatures at the far edge.
Thanks, Eric. Well, let's try and pull all this together now, shall we? And summarize the importance of NFV and cloud native. Jeni, what are some of your key learnings you have discovered and challenges that still need to be overcome?
Yeah, it's a great question to reflect on, Guy. And I think what's interesting is that we have an opportunity here with cloud native telecom infrastructure to really leverage the best of the learnings that we collectively have from these types of cloud-based deployment models within cloud service provider infrastructure, and then apply them to some of the unique characteristics of telecom infrastructure. So if you kind of start to look at some of the key attributes of cloud native, you have this need for automation at cloud scale. In a cloud service provider environment, that means automation of a hyperscale data center or multiple hyperscale data centers. In the context of a telecom network, that means automation at a level of scale that includes a massive increase in heterogeneity and distributed compute. So many more locations and configurations and capabilities that need to be automated. So still the same challenge, but you need to address it in a way that meets the needs of that telecom infrastructure. Rajesh talked a little bit earlier about hardware abstraction and some of the things that we're doing to innovate alongside the ecosystem, like enhanced platform awareness, to ensure that even with a greater amount of abstraction at the application layer, that the applications are still able to take advantage of the underlying hardware components, be it compute capabilities, acceleration capabilities, in order to ensure that they can get the maximum performance out of the workloads that they're driving onto that infrastructure. Resiliency, very critical for telecom infrastructure, and it's something that can't be, it's no blink, right? It's something we can't compromise in telecom infrastructure, but it might not look exactly the way that it's been implemented historically in telecom infrastructure. Instead of full hardware redundancy, we have resiliency that is implemented at multiple layers of the stack in order to ensure that those requirements for high availability and resiliency are still met. Some of the key tenets of cloud native architecture around decomposition of applications and microservices. That's super crucial, but it needs to be done for the networking applications and services as well, which of course is much more complex given the performance requirements of those capabilities. And then all of this is enabled through a DevOps approach with full CI/CD, and that really forms the foundation of being able to drive improvements overall in development, deployment, and operational efficiency. So we've certainly made a lot of, I think, early progress in applying the learnings from other parts of cloud-based infrastructure and starting to deploy that in telecom infrastructure. But we've got a long way to go. But I'm excited about what the future brings.
Thank you, Jeni. Well, a final question, quick question to all of you. Let's jump ahead 5 years. Brian, I'll start with you. What do you hope that we've achieved in, say, 5 years from now?
Well, from a network cloud infrastructure perspective, I would love to see us to be at a point, and Eric and Rajesh and Jeni all made mention of common building blocks. Today, as we embark on this container-based technology in the telco world, I'm a little concerned that it may get fragmented as individual network function providers solve these problems in isolation. What I would love to see, and I think it's happening, we've started an industry group called the Common Infrastructure Telco Task Force to really look across this technology, and Intel and Dell are definitely helping us. Let's figure out what the standard building blocks are for this infrastructure, for this cloud native infrastructure, so that, as an operator, I have one platform to operate. I don't have 4 or 5 from the various network providers that I interact with. So that's what I want to see is in 5 years, nobody really thinks about the infrastructure from an operational cost perspective. It's just there, it works. All the network functions that ride on our cloud native, so the very low cost operations, ability to deploy services anywhere, either near or far edge. That's what I would love to see.
Great. And Eric, what do you hope that we've achieved in, say, 5 years' time?
Well, honestly, I love Brian's answer. So what he said is what I want. So on top of that, I want rainbows and unicorns or something like that. Hey, no, really, that's great, and that's really what we're working towards. Let's face it, nothing changes overnight, and although I'm convinced that 5G will be all around us by then, it will still be a journey, and a journey that we're all going to embark on together. As an industry, we'll be working very closely with our partners like AT&T and Intel. It's a journey that could not have been made possible without the efforts that we started talking about earlier, that started in 2012. I may not be a prognosticator, but I do know that this industry will continue to evolve with the combination of 5G and specifically edge moving closer to the customer. We'll see new services that we haven't even dreamed of yet. Very much like the services we get or the applications we are getting today on our smartphones that we could not have envisioned 10 years ago. I think that's going to be just a core benefit of the edge and 5G. So I could tell you that I, for one, I'm just very excited for this journey and everything that we're going to see in 5 years from now.
Fantastic. And Jeni, are you equally as excited as Eric is?
Absolutely, Guy. I think there's a lot to be excited about. If we see all of the innovation that Brian and Eric talked about, I think it's going to form a really great foundation for what it is that I'm most excited about, which is the promise of what cloud native infrastructure can deliver in terms of new service innovation. I think what we've seen to date over the course of the past decade plus, particularly with the mobile and the smartphone revolution that Eric talked about earlier, is this opportunity for the network to be an enabler. But moving forward, the network has an opportunity to be even far more than an enabler. It's not just merely the highway that the bits are flowing on, but it's an opportunity to actually add innovation and value all the way along the way. So you think about 5 years into the future, it's almost like, it's light years in terms of the pace that we're moving and the amount of innovation that can occur. But I, for one, look forward to, being 5 years into the future in 2025 and looking back at all the things that have occurred that we, as Eric said before, that we couldn't have even dreamed of.
Fantastic. And Rajesh, final thoughts from you on where you hope that we will be as an industry in 5 years.
Yeah, listening to Brian, Eric, and Jeni, I think, what stands out for me is really the excitement, passion, and energy as they talk about how far we have come with the network transformation journey. So like them, I'm actually super excited and actually looking forward to this next phase with the cloud native transition, particularly as we ramp 5G and edge services. I think, if I sort of reflect on what we have accomplished over the last few years, it's really this disaggregation of hardware and software. And what that allows us now is to really innovate in software. And as we look at edge and 5G, it actually allows us to deploy new services with a tremendous amount of agility. So as I look forward to the next 5 years, I expect to see compute and communications come together like they have never before. And our vision of fully programmable, scalable, and intelligent network come to fruition. I also hope to have made considerable progress with what we talked about today, which is this next phase of network transformation with the cloud native direction. I'm really looking forward to a partnership with AT&T and Dell towards this cloud native, fully automated infrastructure, and also others in the ecosystem. I think it's going to be a really rewarding experience. And this partnership is going to be key to realize much of the vision that we've talked about here. So super excited and look forward to the next few years of innovation and network transformation. Thank you.
No, thank you. And thank all of you for joining us today and sharing your thoughts and views on NFV and Cloud Native. And don't forget, you can watch more interviews and discussions on Cloud Native NFV right here as part of the Intel Network and Edge V Summit series. But for now, thank you for watching and goodbye.